Committee Room 21. Signed. 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 Committee Room 21. Committee Room 21. Signed. 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 Committee Room 21. Sound. 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 Committee Room 21. Sound.
Okay, we do have quorum. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We're now in public session, members. So I'm going to advise those who may be in the public gallery that they are welcome to use their mobile devices if they're in airplane mode, and that all devices should be muted, and it is not permitted to take photographs or record any part of the meeting. Members, are there any apologies? Not aware of any at this stage. We do have Anya Murphy, who will be attending via Zoom, and Tom is running just a little bit late. So agenda item 2, members, is declarations of interest. I would remind you of your responsibility to declare any interest of any of the items under discussion today. So do any members have any interest to declare in relation to any of today's agenda items? Nope. Okay. Agenda item 3 then is chairperson's business. I refer you to the packet page 6 to the written ministerial statement from the Minister on the Rural Needs.
Chair.
Yes.
The ANC item 7.
Thank you. Brilliant. Good man.
How could I miss that?
To the written ministerial statement from the Minister on the Rural Needs Annual Monitoring Report, 1st of April 24, 31st of March 2025. If you have any comments, you can tend to note. Thank you, members. Item number 2 then, I refer you to the packet page 9 to a copy of the oral statement to the Minister made in the Chamber on Monday relating to the North-South Ministerial Council Aquaculture and Marine Sector meeting held on Friday the 15th of May. Have you any comments, you can tend to note. Thank you, members. Item number 3 then, I refer you to the packet page 14 to a copy of the oral statement the Minister made in the Chamber on Monday relating to the North-South Ministerial Council Agricultural Sectoral meeting held on Friday the 15th of May. Have you any comments, you can tend to note.
Chair, on the back of that statement, I addressed the issue of the Department of Daphne in the south pausing the ability from farmers here in the north to export poultry litter to the south. This is a really serious development for farmers here, because as we know we've got a surplus of phosphate here in the north, and there's a deficit in the south. So you have a situation where farmers in the south are wanting this litter, are needing this litter for their lands, and there's farmers here who want to export it. Now Daphne and the Department of the South has put a pause on that. That has a big implication for farmers right across our constituencies, poultry farmers right across our constituencies, and will have possibly big implications for the Nutrient Action Programme as well, Chair. So I appreciate that we're in different jurisdictions, but I do think that I do think that we should be at the first instance writing to our own minister here, and possibly Daphne as well, because it is a bizarre situation where farmers here in the north, you can export to Scotland at a much higher cost, and yet it's a bizarre situation in the south where farmers who could get that use it from here, but may be forced to perhaps go to Holland and import it from other countries at a much higher carbon footprint and a much higher cost. So this is whatever about our constitutional preferences here, it's one epidemiological island here, and it makes far more economical, environmental sense to be able to for farmers up here to be able to export to farmers who want it just down the road.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, and certainly, I'd been engaged in this a number of months ago by some of those in the chicken and egg sector, the egg sector in particular, and it does pose an existential threat in terms of how they dispose of that. And there were agreements in place for many years, so I think we certainly should. Michelle, did you want to come in there?
Yeah, just on the back of that, I think it would be useful maybe for Pilgrim to come and meet with us, because obviously they're the front end of this, and the challenges they're also having with SES and the project that they have in Ballymena with Tully and Tully 1, Tully 2. So I think it would be useful to have them coming up and to put on the record the challenges that their sector's having. And then some of those people from the egg sector too. Then I think would we want to do that? I think we could certainly note with the minister that we've raised it today and ask a question, but also the committee can then, as you say, exercise its function and seek witness. So we could reach out. Declan, if you want to feed in maybe through the clerk's team in regard to those that are raising the concerns and Pilgrim and those in that space.
SES are a massive stakeholder here as well.
Yes.
I think, Chair, if it's possible to do that before we break for the summer.
Okay, and even if it's so, we could either do it. It's going to be a challenge, but we'll work that through the forward work programme. It may be an informal session, or it'll be maybe a separate session as to, because we've got these committee meetings are jammed, but we could certainly fashion an informal or an extra meeting.
To be fair, Chair, I mean, a number of us will have met them informally anyway. I think it would be useful actually for this to be a formal session.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be in a third. It could be a formal session, a formal additional session.
Yeah, that is going to be very challenging before the summer. We can only take a look at the.
We'll take a look at it and we'll try and facilitate it. But what it would require, guys, is if we can facilitate it, it means we have to be available ourselves too. Sometimes we look at these things and its members aren't available too. But we could it is a priority pinch point, and as you said, it fails so many of the targets that we would have.
It would likely have to be an extra meeting at this stage, is all I can think, but we'll certainly look at it and come back next week. SES and Pilgrim.
Yeah, and if there's anybody else that you want to feed in to the clerk in regards to that needs to be could be useful for that meeting, certainly SES would be useful. Pilgrim, the egg producers. Yeah, did you want to come in there? Sorry?
No, just I agree with Declan is saying there wholeheartedly, and SES has a massive role to play in this, and I think it would be no harm for us to be able to question them exactly what is their role in this, and all the questions that we have asked before, because up until now we haven't had those answers. I think that's vitally important. Yeah.
I was just checking with the team member there. I'm going to forward you. We did write previously regarding the export of chicken litter way back in January, but we wrote to the National Parks and Wildlife Service in Dublin at the time. Did we get a response? No, I don't think we didn't get a response from them. I'm trying to recall if we wrote to the Minister as well.
Daphne has now made the pause.
So we'll separate that. I think at the time, yes, we were looking at writing to.
I know from speaking to some people in the sector, like there's farmers in places like Louth and Meath, which is just down the road from Armagh, for example, who want this, and our farmers want.
No, we'll write to them.
They have the surplus, so it just seems to be a mad situation, to be honest with you.
Okay, so we're going to look at an additional session, which is looking the most likely. the stakeholders, if there's anybody you feel needs to be there, make sure that we get them in. We could, on the back of that, just ascertain that we definitely didn't get a response and seek an update. Then we could maybe seek an update. And I think we should alert the Minister, our own Minister now, and in regard to what our actions are, and ask the question, what is his interpretation, what actions he is taking at the moment in this space.
And Chair, Clark, if it was hard to squeeze down into our forward work programme, is it possible to do like one of those Tuesday afternoon type meetings or something like that?
That's what we're suspecting we're going to have to do. It's going
I do know, it's not on our agenda, I do know we're going to have a letter from the department asking us to hold an extra meeting on climate action plan, but I'm still waiting for that, and I did chase it. And we have a room provisionally booked for that, but I don't have the letter, so I can't bring it to you formally today to ask for it. But I just know I'm trying to balance that as well.
Do you hope you heard that, Dallow?
No, I'm dropping the Dallow in. But I'm just trying to let you know that there's potentially yet another thing coming.
No problem. Have you enough on that, Clark? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, then item number 4, then I refer you to the packet, page 22, to correspondence from the Department regarding the launch on the 1st of June of the 7-week consultation on the designation of Lagan Meadows as a quiet area to be protected from an increase in noise in accordance with Regulation 40 of the Environmental Noise Regulations Northern Ireland 2006. A link to the consultation is included in the correspondence, the results of which will be considered when taking forward Lagan Meadows for formal designations as a quiet area. Have you any comments, or are you content to note, members? Thank you. Members, I refer you to page 24 of the pack, to correspondence dated the 18th of May from the Northern Ireland representatives of the British Hydropower Association regarding a court action taken by the Department alleging a breaching of sections 58 and 59 of the Fisheries Act. Due to the ongoing legal caution, we will need to be exercised. We have to be cautious in our comments. Have you any comments to make on the background referred to in the letter that led to us? I know that some members are attached to that, but no comments. Okay, thank you, members. Item number 6 then, members, I refer you to page 29 of the pack to an invitation to attend the Law Society of Northern Ireland Climate Justice Conference on Thursday the 18th of June at the Ulster Museum from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. With the committee's agreement, I will attend with the clerk to represent the committee on that afternoon. However, any member can, of course, also attend. So are you agreed, and are you content to reply individually to the invitation if you wish to attend? Thank you, members. Item number 7, then, members, I refer you to the pack at page 37, to correspondence dated the 27th of May from an individual seeking an update regarding asbestos contamination at the former Ulster Weaver site on the Maldron Merdy Street. Members, for the record, I think it useful to run through our considerations to date. On the 12th of March, we considered correspondence from the individual and recognised that there were potentially wider concerns about environmental health and protection of public safety, and we agreed to write both to the Minister and Belfast City Council. On the 16th of April, we considered the Minister's response. He noted that a criminal investigation is ongoing into potential breaches of the Waste and Contaminated Land Northern Ireland Order 1997. He provided a timeline of actions since NIEA was first aware of the issue in 2011, including the mitigation measures taken since 16th of May 2025, when it became aware that asbestos waste remained on the site. He highlighted that NIEA powers are limited to its statutory provisions under the WCLO, and after a remedial notice was issued under Article 27 of that order, the landowner undertook remedial action. However, NIEA had recently been made aware that the fencing may have been breached, and for public health reasons, the NIEA advised that unauthorised persons should not be accessing the site. On the 7th of May, we considered BCC's response. It detailed the actions taken, including issuing of notices regarding the discovery of asbestos on the site in 2011, works in default undertaken by BCC to remove asbestos containing materials, demolish unsafe buildings and secure the site. BCC pointed out that it had no powers to regulate or remediate, as it is designated as a brownfield site, and the landowner has responsibility for full remediation. And BCC also stated that monitoring, enforcement and waste removal has been the responsibility of the Department as the statutory waste regulator under the WCLO. Members, are you content to note and forward the responses to the individual? Thank you, members. Okay, item number 8, members, regarding the detailed response from the Department dated the 6th of May regarding the queries that we sent on the sheep carcass classification and price report and regulations 2026. We offered NIMEA the opportunity to comment further on the DAERA response, and we considered that NIMEA response on the 21st of May. DAERA officials have now requested sight of that response, so our members agreed to forward that NIMEA response to the Department. Thank you, members. Further to this, on the 21st of May, you will recall we agreed to propose an informal meeting with the Department and NIMEA to discuss the outstanding issues and concerns that have been raised. This has been arranged for next Monday. That's at 10 a.m. in room 30. Calendar invites have been issued to members, so if you could please respond to that, it would be appreciated. UFU have also expressed an interest in attending the meeting, so our members agreed for UFU to attend that informal meeting. Yes, thank you, members. Agenda item 4 then is the minutes of the meeting on the 28th of May. So members, I refer you to packet page 39 to the draft minutes from our meeting on the 20th of May. So have you any comments? Are you content with the minutes as drafted? And if you are, I would sign them for publishing on the website. Okay. Agenda item 5 then is matters arising. Item number 1, members, I refer you to the packet page 52 to a response dated the 27th of May from the Minister regarding the impact of rising costs of maritime fuel. Members will recall that last week we considered the response from the UK Chamber of Shipping regarding the impacts of global economics events on the maritime industry. The Minister states he supports the extension of the UK ETS, but it must be implemented fairly and in recognition of Northern Ireland's specific circumstances, and that he has engaged with other departments and his UK counterparts and stakeholders in this regard. The Minister also states that negotiations are ongoing between the UK and the EU to explore a potential ETS link to create the conditions to facilitate mutual exemptions from both parties' CBAMs. Members, have any comments? You content to note? Okay. Item number 2, I refer you to packet page 54 to a response from the Department for the Economy dated the 1st of June regarding support for green growth initiatives. The responses state that the Interdepartmental Biomethane Group, the IDBG, chaired by Centre for Advanced Sustainable Energy, consisting of the Department for the Economy, DAERA and the Utility Regulator, meets monthly to develop a cross-departmental biomethane policy. The group has also reached out to stakeholders to discuss topics including the gas industry, biomethane production, planning and regulation, nutrient management and financing. Have you any comments? Are you content to note? Thank you. Item number 3, members, I refer you to the packet page 58 to the response from the Department dated the 27th of May regarding Peatland Strategy Delivery Plan. Members will recall we considered a written briefing on the 7th of May and wrote to the Department inquiring if it had a clear position on managing the challenges arising from potentially competing targets, namely peatland restoration and afforestation, and how the delivery of the plan contributes to the 30 by 30 nature recovery targets. The response states that peatland restoration and afforestation are not in conflict because they target different land types. Restoration focuses on protecting carbon-rich peat soils, while afforestation schemes avoid deep peat areas, ensuring tree planting occurs on suitable land. In relation to the 30 by 30 nature recovery targets, the Department states its tree planting action is expected to be launched by the end of June to enable accelerating woodland creation in Northern Ireland. If members have any comments, I do have one. The query for me probably came from our visit last year, about 6 months ago, when we visited Ancraigan, and then we went to a peatland site, and there was forestry land that had been identified with trees on it that we were having to cut down to return it to bogland. And I think that's so from my perspective, that's all right. I would say it's deforestation, but deforestation has an effect on afforestation. Is I suppose the point that I'm trying to uncover here, and this is to try and be helpful, I suppose, to quantify why some of the afforestation targets aren't being met and try to accelerate that. So would members be content that we respond to that just to point out that we were somewhere, we'll get the name of the bogland where that was, and say that was forestry land and there were trees getting cut down, and it was the deforestation, I suppose, to create that peatland. And it's not to compete with the department on this, it's just to say, is this being included and captured in the targets? And okay, thank you, members.
I don't think we got a response on that, and it did at one stage about the native tree planting. Am I right? Yeah. Okay. That's great. Okay, that's correct.
Okay, members, I now request that we move to agenda item 14. This was a late addition to the agenda, as the committee team only received notification of the Fisheries, Aquaculture and Environment Bill late yesterday afternoon. Are members content that we do that? Okay then. Thank you, members. So agenda item 14, the Fisheries, Aquaculture and Water Environment Bill. So members, I refer you to table papers at page 65 to correspondence from the Minister dated the 3rd of June, notifying that the First Minister and Deputy First Minister, acting jointly under paragraph 2.14 of the Ministerial Code, have approved the introduction of the Fisheries, Aquaculture and Water Environment Bill to the Assembly. I also refer you to a pre-introduction copy of the draft bill, which starts at page 68, and the explanatory and financial memorandum, which starts at page 68. Members, it is planned that we will receive a briefing from officials at our meeting next week. So have you any comments at this stage, or are you content to note the draft bill? And it came very late, members, so I'm sure you will want to take time to look at that in your own time. Okay, members? Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Agenda item 6 then is the Departmental Oral Evidence Session, SL1, the Farming with Nature Scheme Amendment Regulations 2026. So members, I refer you to the pack for the following papers. the clerk's scrutiny memo dated the 1st of June 2026 at page 61, the revised SL1 dated the 24th of April, and that's at page 71, the draft SR and explanatory memorandum starting at page 75, response from DERA dated the 18th of May, which we considered at last week's meeting, to queries raised by the committee starting at page 90. The Department submitted the above SL1 and draft SR to the Committee on the 24th of April to advise of its intention to make a new regulation under the negative resolution procedure to provide the Department with the legal powers to update payment rates, expand eligibility and introduce additional actions to Year 2 of the Farming with Nature Transition Scheme. At our meeting on the 7th of May, the Committee agreed to receive an oral briefing from officials today and to issue a call for views using the Citizen Space platform, which received no responses, members. I now welcome the following officials from the Department to brief the Committee and answer any questions that we have. We have Manus McHenry, Deputy Director of Agricultural Policy Division. We have Dr. Davina Park, Head of Farming with Nature Policy, and John Crawford, Acting Head of Legislation Branch. Thank you very much for your attendance, and please feel free to brief the Committee, and then hopefully we'll take some questions.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to come back to the Committee to provide a further update on DERA's plans to introduce Year 2 of the Farming with Nature Transition Scheme in 2026. You will already have received the amended regulations for consideration, and with your permission, Mr. Chairman, we would like to give you and members some detail on the progress my team has made since our last appearance in April. The Farming with Nature Transition Scheme sits within the Farming with Nature package, which forms part of the programme of change being progressed through the DERA Sustainable Agriculture Programme. It aims to contribute to the delivery of many of DERA's strategic environmental outcomes by supporting farmers and land managers to make substantial contributions to environmental improvements and sustainability. The transition scheme is the first strand of the package and launched in 2025, focusing on farm land outside designated sites and other priority habitat areas. It allows farmers to implement actions that will deliver additional habitats, protect watercourses, provide green infrastructure for nature corridors, and increase carbon sequestration. The scheme has been developed and continues to be developed through an engagement process that includes the Agriculture Policy Stakeholder Group and the Farming with Nature Working Group, which consists of key stakeholders from both the agriculture and environmental sectors. There's also extensive ongoing engagement across policy and enabling teams, including design, delivery and inspection branches within DERA. Following the successful launch of Year 1 of the scheme, the team has broadened, strengthened and simplified the Farming with Nature Transition Scheme, drawing on research, lessons learned and feedback from the Farming with Nature Working Group and individual farmers and wider stakeholders. This led to the development of a robust addendum to the existing business case to justify and support the revisions to the scheme. I'm pleased to say that DOF approved the addendum on the 15th of May this year. This means that the Department has allocated 9.3 million funding to the transition scheme for 2026-27. I'll now give members a brief reminder of the revised approach for Year 2. This incorporates an expanded list of actions, enhanced payment levels that deliver multiple benefits and a wider scheme scope, enhancing both the reach and attractiveness of the scheme to the farming community, as well as increasing the overall environmental impact of the policy. A total of 14 actions will be available in Year 2, including habitat management actions. In addition to those actions currently available, the new actions include establishing arable margins and herbal lays, as well as managing habitat created in Year 1. The scheme eligibility criteria has been expanded to include active ESS agreement holders to enable all those who apply to join the scheme. The minimum application threshold of 2,500 has been removed to enable smaller projects and management actions to be applied for. The upper limit of 9,500 has been increased to 20,000. In addition to these simplifications and improvements to Year 1 specifications, the application process has also been incorporated to improve the customer experience. Your pack includes a list of actions and payment levels, and I don't propose to go through each one of them, but just to say that there are arable margins included within the actions for this year and herbal lays as new additions. The payment rates for supporting items, i.e. the protective fence, pasture pumps, drinking troughs with concrete base and gates and posts remain unchanged from year 1. So at this stage I'll hand over now to John, who's going to take you through the amending SR.
Thank you, Manus. In 2025, DAERA laid a draft affirmative statutory rule to make technical amendments to existing retained EU regulations, which allowed the Department to introduce the Farming with Nature Transition Scheme. This was followed by a negative statutory rule to establish the scheme rules, eligibility requirements and scheme payment requirements for the transition scheme. It provided the legislative basis for the policy position in year 1 of the scheme. The amending statutory rule before you today makes substantive changes to the scheme for year 2. In summary, it updates key definitions, including replacing the definition of permanent grassland area with the definition of permanent grassland sensitive area, and adds a broad definition of machinery. It removes Regulation 4.1b, thereby simplifying eligibility requirements, raises the maximum payment available under Regulation 8.2 from £9,500 to £20,000, omits Regulation 9 to allow the scheme to comply with the farm sustainability standards, removes the suspension of support until a reported action has been carried out for the scheme, replaces a number of existing Schedule 1 actions and criteria to reflect the changes which have been made to these actions for year 2, and introduces new eligible scheme actions. In addition, Regulation 2 substitutes the payment tables in Schedule 2. These reflect the rates of payment for existing and new actions. It also updates species lists and seed mix requirements through revised and new Schedules 5 to 8. Regulations 3 and 4 make amendments to assimilated law for the farm sustainability standards and are not directly connected to the Farming with Nature Transition Scheme. Regulation 3 introduces amendments with the intention to provide clarity around farm sustainability standards penalties which can be applied. Regulation 4 amends assimilated law to provide clarification on the contents of a control report and the timescale for finalising it after an on-the-spot check. I'll now hand you back to Manus.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing us to present this update. John, Elena and I are happy to answer any questions members have on year 2 of the Farming with Nature Transition Scheme. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Manus, really appreciate that. Are there any categories of farmers or landowners who may be disadvantaged or excluded under the revised criteria?
Nope. No farmers now. In the case of landowners, it's important just to mention the fact that you need to have control of the land that you're managing. So in some instances, landowners will have land rented out to other farmers who are farming the land. It's the farmer then that has the control of that land, so they would then be eligible to apply to the scheme, not the landowner.
And then the converse of that, is it expected that the amendments to the scheme then, you anticipate that this will engage new applications?
Yeah,
and
that's
so
right.
This will encompass,
So just to mention, last year EFS agreement holders, for example, were excluded. This year, those existing EFS agreement holders will be eligible to apply. So the scope of the scheme is much wider this year to ensure that we have as many farmers and applications coming forward to enter the scheme as possible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, has the department considered a situation where fencing may still be necessary, for example, mixed-use land or future scheme expansions?
At the minute, protective fencing is only mandatory for riparian buffer strips and is available for the planting new hedgerow action and farmland tree actions. We have not included protective fencing for arable field margins at this time, and I suppose the department has been criticised in the past for the level of funding that has been given over to fencing in previous agri-environment schemes, and we wanted to be sure that under Farming with Nature we fund protective fencings where they're absolutely necessary to protect the environmental asset being created or managed under the scheme.
Okay, that one might come up a wee bit later. It was raised previously. I think maybe Declan had raised that. Maybe. And did you want to just come in before I finish? Do you want to come in on that one rather than?
That was the point that I raised the previous time, and there's parts of the country if you drive through now, the first cut of silage has lucky enough been taken in because they got in last week, and you can see growth coming back already. But unless farmers can't put cattle, if you go for the strip around the field with that's proposed in the scheme, And without any sort of semi-permanent or temporary protective fencing, farmers can't put the cattle onto the fields to graze that fresh grass now. You can't do it unless they buy fencing themselves. So I just think that fencing would have been, not necessarily permanent fencing, but semi-permanent fencing would have been a better solution to enable farmers to let cattle on to graze now after the first cut or after their last cut.
The field margins that are offered in year one are primarily in arable fields where cereal is the main crop, and it's more than likely that those fields are part of an arable rotation. And yes, I appreciate that there may be livestock in those fields at certain points of the year, but it's for very limited, short periods of time. And we think that probably temporary fencing is adequate in those situations. Looking ahead to further actions that we may introduce over the lifetime of this scheme, a margin in a grassland field is under consideration, and yes, in those cases, permanent fencing will likely be offered in those cases.
There's nothing to stop Daghlian anyone putting up a temporary fence if they wish to do so within the scheme, but they'd have to do it under their own financial.
So it reduces the incentive.
I understand. Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for that, Declan. Can you then provide further details of how the £7 million plus the 2.3 million resource deal was, how the figure was arrived at, or how it was determined, the allocation?
The funding for the scheme then is split across the funding that actually is allocated to the business to introduce the actions on their farm as part of that there, and to support the process. You have the application to the scheme as well, and then you have the management and the control of those actions out on farm, the checks that are necessary as part of the governance that's associated with the programme. So when you take that all together, the money to the farmers, the money to manage the scheme and administrate it, that reaches the value of funding there.
How did the department determine the ambition of £7 million? Just so to kind of simple, how did you arrive at that figure?
Within the addendum to the business case, we have analysed previous uptake in previous agri-environment schemes based on our applications in year one, and also our ambition for the level of environmental improvement that we'd like to see undertaken on farms. We also had feedback from year one from our Farming with Nature working group, other stakeholders and individual farmers, some suggesting that the upper limit of £9,500 was restrictive and limited the environmental action that they could take on their farm, while the £2,500 minimum threshold for an application also limited some smaller businesses getting into the scheme. So that's why we've looked at that. All of those in the round have helped to develop the business case to this level of funding.
A final one from me then, and I'll move on to members then. The committee, as you will be aware, is considering Declan's ANC payments bill. Will the future strands of the Farming with Nature package deal with ANC in any way? Is it anticipated that there are any crossovers, I suppose? If the bill does become law, will the future Farming with Nature package build on its provisions as a starting point, or has it been in any way anticipated?
The Farming with Nature Transition Scheme is the first strand of the package, and it will develop to include land and designated sites and other priority habitat areas, and some of those obviously overlap with areas of natural constraint. So this, as the package develops, this land will come into.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And then just speak of the devil, and he may appear. Declan, you're next.
No, I think about the points I want to make.
You happy enough? Okay. Thank you, Declan. Michelle. Yep, Michelle. Yep.
No, I'm okay. This morning, obviously at the last meeting, I had asked in relation to those who have been active in this type of behaviour on their farm for many years, and maybe aren't currently in EFS, but maybe were in either previous programmes or have been doing it just naturally, but yet there's no real reward for them doing that. Has there been any more consideration being given by the department in how those farmers can be further incentivised?
We're developing up the package, Michelle. As Davina says, this is the first strand of it, and we are looking at options around how we can incentivise those farmers that have been in previous schemes, albeit EFS or NICMS. It's just how we actually bring that forward through a business case and justify it. There are businesses out there who are at the very top in terms of their environmental action on farm. It's how we then take that forward, and we're continuing to look at the options around that there, along with the economists within the department.
And would that be looking at maybe like an outcomes-based type payment?
Outcomes-based, results-based, that's been discussed quite a bit. And again, the options on how we do that. The economic framework that we have been using for a long time is based around income forgone, costs incurred, and it's introducing other frameworks then in relation to an economist's point of view on how we bring forward that results-based, outcome-based approach.
So you've said that you're currently working on that. Is there an anticipated timeline for us to consider?
From the Minister's point of view, he's very keen that we do this and bring this forward within his mandate, and my staff and the other staff that are engaged in this here are working very hard to be able to deliver on that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. John Blair.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. A couple of questions. First of all, you was mentioned there at the start of nature corridors, which in the establishment of those. Can I ask in relation to either the establishment or identification of nature corridors, would there be any coordination in relation to how one nature corridor in one farm would feed into another for overall benefit? And whether, if there is such analysis of this, whether it's done by yourselves or another section of DAERA?
In relation to habitat connectivity and nature corridors, the Farming with Nature Transition Scheme is a spatial scheme, so we will have very good records of just exactly where new habitat or is being created, and we're considering how we use that then to perhaps target linking pieces of existing habitat together, and I think as we begin to use more technology and remote sensing as well, we'll be able to identify those areas where perhaps the connectivity isn't as good as it could be.
Okay, Davina, thank you. That's very useful and good to know that analysis is going to be done. The next question, if you don't mind, I've asked this before in one form or another. The riparian buffer strips of the 2 metre minimum and the 7 metre minimum, why that? Why do we have two categories there?
I suppose the widths are 7 metres. Some farmers would see 7 metres as being quite a sizeable area to come out, and there is evidence out of production, but there is evidence that a 2 metre riparian buffer strip can give benefits in terms of slowing down nutrient flow to and sediment to the watercourse, and also there's that protection of keeping livestock out of the river as well. So there are benefits, and I think we'd rather see have a 2 metre buffer strip than none. So it gives farmers a bit more flexibility in the choice of the action that they decide to take on.
Just in relation to that as well, John, that there's management from the river's point of view that needs to take place as well with a 2 metre strip. You have options then to reach over and into the river if you need to do or carry out any work in it. Within the 7 metre, then you have the gate posts and an action then so you can move in around and drive into it. So you have the two elements there, and it gives farmers then that flexibility as well.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, John. And Gareth?
Yeah, no, it's just in terms of that, I suppose, the regulatory impact, and then how we're measuring that against outcomes, and how then you're evaluating that. Have you a point in time where, as a department, you'll look at any measurable gains in biodiversity versus what the scheme has cost to run? And obviously it's important that there is, you know, financial assistance for farmers to enable them to participate, and it's not a drain on them over and above what would normally be the case. But how, you know, at what point in time do you say, well, let's go and measure this and work out whether these measures have been useful and beneficial to biodiversity, and, you know, what sort of benchmark are you placing on that?
Part of developing up the business case for this element of the package, a monitoring and evaluation framework is fully embedded within the scheme itself. So throughout the scheme and the lifetime of the scheme, there's various points where monitoring and evaluation will take place. That will feed back in to the department, and it will also feed back into those higher level policies and strategies and targets that are already set, to ensure that it aligns and meets meets the requirements that the scheme has been set out to deliver on.
In terms of, I mean, are you actually going to be, is it just an assumption that creating these buffer zones will encourage, you know, the biodiversity to flourish, or is there a measurable way to gauge how that's progressing, is what I'm asking?
I mean, along with our other colleagues within the department, measures will be included within the programme itself to assess how particular actions have actually addressed and ensured that there is an environmental outcome, and that will be completed throughout the programme.
And I suppose in terms of, you'd said in your, you know, in the package we're looking at here, that you'd carried out screening and it wasn't anticipated that there would be additional compliance or administrative burdens placed on farm businesses over and above those required in existing regimes. How did you come to that conclusion?
Again, following the review of previous schemes where very much the requirements were based on EU requirements at that time. They're very specific. For example, if you were putting up a fence, it was distance between posts, it was the number of steeples, it was the turnstile of the wire. And to be honest, in a lot of cases, we didn't feel that was needed going forward, and that's just one example across the scheme. So we've taken that on board, we've taken on board the feedback from stakeholders and others involved, and we've basically, where possible, we've removed those requirements and left it in such a way that farmers out there are able to implement actions without that burden of worry around the specification that's required.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, members. John, have you?
Apologies, I intended when I spoke there to declare an interest in the other item. I wasn't here, and apologies for that too. Declarations of interest were done earlier, so I'll declare an interest in the hunting with dogs bill, which we'll be discussing later.
No problem. Okay, members, are we content? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your attendance today.
Thank you.
You got off late today. Okay, members. So members, following on from what we've heard today, and bearing in mind that the SL1 stage is the last opportunity for the committee to influence the policy approach, are members content that we have sufficient information to make a formal decision on the SR, or does any member wish to invite any stakeholder or request any further evidence before we make a formal decision? Content, members?
Yep.
Okay, members, then no further evidence or action from the department is required. I will now put the question on the SR. The Committee for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs has considered the SL1, the Farming with Nature Scheme Amendment Regulations 2026, and has no objection to the rule, subject to the ESR report. So members, are you agreed? Okay, members, thank you very much. Okay, agenda item 7 then, members, is Areas with Natural Constraint Payments Bill, a briefing from RAISE, and that's about a review of the cost. So members, as you're aware, last week we commenced our oral evidence with a briefing from RAISE on the policy aspects of the bill, and this week we will have a briefing from the RAISE Public Finance Scrutiny Unit, this time on the potential cost implications of the bill. So members, I refer you to the pack for the following papers. The RAISE briefing paper, Review of Costs for Areas with Natural Constraint Payments Bill, starts at page 94. The RAISE Bill Research paper, which we were briefed on last week, starts in your packet page 129. The bill as introduced starts at page 211, and the explanatory memorandum starts at page 223. And I welcome Nathan Mulholland from RAISE to brief the committee and answer any questions that we might have. Welcome this morning, Nathan. Thank you.
Good morning, committee. The committee will recall my colleague Mark Allen presented a paper outlining the key issues in the areas natural constraint last week. Today, this is a review of costs of the bill. So just straight in, Section 1 provides some context-setting information. This subsection outlines the financial environment in which the bill is being considered. It highlights the pressures such as departmental funding gaps, inflation, competing public spend demands and wider economic uncertainty. Any new spend commitments should be considered within this context. Section 1.3 presents the Department of Agriculture's draft budget 26, 29, 30 allocations. This is for illustrative purposes. I know this budget is not agreed. However, this may give an indication of the Department's financial position in which the provisions of the bill could be operating in. Section 2 of the paper provides background information relating to the 2018 ANC scheme and subsequent legislative developments. Mark covered this in detail in his appearance last week, therefore I'll not repeat the points to the committee. However, from a financial perspective, I would reiterate to the committee that the 2018 scheme required ministerial direction to proceed, as it was considered ANC support measure would be unlikely to demonstrate value for money. So I now move to Section 3. Section 3 considers the key financial implications to the public purse for the bill. The bill requires payments to be at least as generous as the 2018 levels and increased annually in line with inflation. This creates an ongoing financial commitment that automatically rises over time. In addition, the bill does not define a specific price index, and this is notable in terms of cost, and I will detail the impact of this later in my remarks. So, Section 3.1.1 considers payments made under the 2018 scheme. The explanatory memorandum which accompanied the 2018 regulation stated the budget for the 2018 scheme is approximately £8 million. Raise contacted DERA to request further information on the payments made under the 2018 scheme. The department confirmed the 2018 scheme cost approximately £8.8 million, of which 27 was financed by the department and 73% by the European Union. It should be noted at this stage that the full cost will now fall on the department if reintroduced by the bill. The 2018 scheme supported 8,878 claimants with an average payment of almost £995. However, DERA informed RAISE that there had been 9,420 applicants for the 2018 scheme. Section 3.12 looks at the proposed cost of the bill as detailed in the accompanying EFM. The explanatory memorandum estimates that a future scheme could cost about £11.4 million annually based on the retail price index for 2025. However, by linking the payment to an inflationary price index, it is likely the cost will rise year on year. It should also be noted, as previously mentioned, the bill allows the department to use a recognised model of inflation within the bill to compare examples such as the retail price index and the consumer price index. As such, this would have an impact on the cost associated with the bill, which I'll detail in the next section. So in that section, we consider the cost variation arising from using different price indexes and how this could impact on payments. The total cost varies depending on the inflation measure used. Within the paper, I've covered RPI and CPI, so that's retail price index and consumer price index, as those were mentioned as examples within the bill's commentary. However, I note the committee, I've also chosen to explore the impact of CPI, including owner-occupiers housing costs, which is CPIH, as from 2030, the retail price index will be aligned to the CPIH figure, so those RPI will eventually be the same index as CPIH. It's ONS and Treasury policy at the minute. Figure 1 at page 114 of your pack shows the formula I've used to apply the price indexes to uplift the budget and payments made in 2018 to a current value. I would highlight to the committee that the bill states the department must make regulations which payment rates are increased annually by at least a percentage increase in the price index for the year, and the price index means an index or figures published by a statistics board. In this, I would also note that there are more price indexes than those covered in the paper, and also there are variations on the indexes which are in the paper. So within CPI, like you have CPIH, there are other variants of that. So there's a wide spectrum within, as the bill states in a minute, of indexes that could be used and applied to the payment. Table 8 at page 115 of the pack shows the inflationary uplift applied to the payment rates based on the 2018 scheme. I have throughout the paper applied the inflationary uplift on an annual basis since 2018 to illustrate the annual impact of the bill, of a similar bill would have had if the approach had been taken since the 2018 ANC payment. Considering the table, the committee will note that from an original payment rate of 26.57p for the first 200 acres, and then a digressive payment of £19.93 in excess of 200, the table shows how individual payments will grow. So RPI would see at the current rates the first 200 acres being around £38 for RPI and £35 for CPI and CPIH. And for the digressive, we're going up to £28.50 for RPI and around £26 for CPIH from those original 2018 figures. The next section then considers the inflationary uplift of the scheme budget based on that reported in the financial memorandum that accompanied the 2018 regulations. Table 9 of page 116 of your pack details the results from previous years when the formula is applied. The scheme budget was reported 8 million, and based on the calculation, this would be equivalent to roughly between 10.5 million and 11.5 million by 2026 to date, depending on the index that you use. The next table, 10 at 118 of your pack, is based on the total cost of the actual payments made in 2018. Using the actual 2018 cost of 8.83 million instead of the budget suggests costs could reach between 11.6 million and 12.8 million at the current 2026 level. I would just like to take a moment to sort of caveat some of the calculations in the table. First, the potential payment amount is based on the 2018 figures, and that therefore assumes the same number of claimants and also the same areas and that's being claimed for. Second, the 2026 figures I presented are for the year to date, so that's an average of January and February which were available. So for the annual index, they take the monthly and divide it over 12 and you get the average. So we've only had 2 months to date. However, since the paper was completed, we have had a couple more indexes published, and so within those 2 months, for CPI, the estimated payment has risen by £50,000, and if you apply the RPI rate for just the last couple of months, there's an extra additional 100,000. At this point, I've raised the committee the difference in variation you see year on year. If the committee would indulge me if we look again at table 10 on 118, this is point I'm trying to make is about the unexpected sort of inflationary pressures that may arise within years. So between 2019 and 2020, if you do the calculation, the rise is only about 100,000 because inflation was quite low at that stage. Then we had an economic shock during COVID, and between 22 and 23 for RPI, for example, that cost rose by £1 million within a year. So as we're aware, there are a global situation at the minute in which inflation is uncertain for this year. So when we are in a more stable financial position, the cost rise will probably be a lot lower. But if we are facing economic shock, there could be quite a significant jump in the payment in the next year that will have to be covered. Finally, then moving to the other potential costs that have been considered. You'll find these at table 11 at page 119 of your pack. These consider costs to the department. The subsection outlines administrative and operational costs, including processing claims, inspections, enforcement, managing fraud, and double funding. It notes that the existing systems may not be sufficient, or where there was ANC systems in place in the past, they may need to be re-stood up, and individuals who worked on those things are doing different things within the department now, retraining of inspectors to do the work that maybe some of them previously done or had never been done. We also consider offences and penalties, which all these have been raised within the Bill's EFM, but in this way that's slightly separate is because that also then has an issue for the court service, another public body and public funds used to prosecute. But those are, for any bill, we kind of cover those areas just to make that point that if there are offences and there are prosecutions, the court service and justice, there is a cost within the wider public funds to that there. I will finish at that, members, and open up for questions.
Thank you very much, and a comprehensive paper, and it does evidently give us something to work off and something quantitative and a bit of qualitative work in there, so thank you for that, Aidan. Given the challenging budgetary context, what pressures would the ANC payments place on the department's budget, and would introducing these payments likely require trade-offs with other support schemes?
With any payment that is on, or any cost that's unexpected to a department, so they haven't planned themselves for this, there will have to be. Now, you either have to trade off by reducing other schemes or that, or within the bidding process, within in-year monitoring, things like that, the department can access money. But within in-year monitoring, there's no guarantee of actually receiving those funds. So again, there's with any additional costs that arise for the department of the year, they have to make decisions on that or access new sources of funding, be it say in year or within uplifts that come within year from sort of treasury decisions. There may be more funding become available there, but yes, in any case, decisions would have to be made within the department. No
problem. And I'm not sure if it's in the paper or not, but was there any analysis done maybe over a 5 or 10 year period at in-year funding opportunities for ERA in particular to average it out to see what that might look like over?
Not within this paper.
Okay.
Some analysis I've done in the past have been, but I haven't anything up to date on that. So, but it is something that
certainly not suggesting it's a way to build legislation around. But it's useful evidence for any of us in terms of making our judgments, I suppose.
Not within the context of this particular paper.
No problem. Okay. And then how do the anticipated costs of the NSA payments compare with equivalent schemes in other jurisdictions? And are there any lessons that can be drawn from the cost structure of those schemes, do you think?
Fortunately, within the context of the paper, we look at the bill directly. It wasn't a comparative piece. Now, again, I've done comparative pieces in the past, but I do not know the equivalent schemes. I know they're operating in Scotland and the Republic, and Ireland in particular, but in the context of the paper, we're just looking through the lens of the bill as introduced and haven't went outside the scope of that.
Okay, good. To just invite some more questions from the members, if that's okay. Declan, do you want to ask some questions? I know you've declared an interest in this topic.
Nathan, thanks for your paper. And just like Mark's paper last week, I have it printed out and going through it, trying to address many of the questions which have been raised. I suppose it's beneficial that like yourself is doing this here. It enables me as well to try and make this bill as good as possible. I do accept what you're saying about the fluctuations around inflation. I can see that there. But you'd also say that this is a per hectareage payment. So number of applicants doesn't really cause it to fluctuate. Because there's X amount of hectares in ANC land, regardless of the number of applicants.
Yes. Again, that was just about what the department had sent to us, and I just wanted to include that they gave the number. But as I say, there had been applications, the additional applications made. So where individual farmers had made an application and didn't get ANC, I'd assume there maybe, I don't know why they didn't get if they had applied for it. And
I think in the previous scheme there was a requirement around having breeding cattle.
Right.
So if you hadn't breeding cattle, regardless of the quality of your land, you couldn't apply for it in the previous scheme, and I think dairy farmers couldn't apply for it in the previous scheme either.
Okay.
Obviously that's something that we looked at going forward, and obviously, in my opinion, this was kind of restarting a scheme that was already there, and a lot of it, the application process could be embedded with the current single application process. But thanks very much. I should also say as well, which is connected to this as well, see there's 60,000 new hectares now, that the 60,000 new hectares, 155,000 new hectares that have now become eligible for single farm payment, but there's no single farm payment entitlements to cover it, and 60% of that 155,000 acres is in ANC areas, which shows the challenges of those farmers who've been farming for years in ANC areas with no single farm payment for that land. So there's lots of factors on, but all I can say is thanks very much, and you've raised a lot of issues which certainly I'll be looking at along with the people who are helping me analyse this.
Is that it? Happy?
That's all I'd say. A weak moment there.
That's one of the best responses I've ever seen on a
There was a question there.
It's like a Matthew O'Toole speech there, and I get to the question, Matthew. Sorry, I'm not picking on the SDLP today. He's not here to defend himself. Okay, thank you, Declan. Any other questions, members? It would indicate it. No, we're content with the paper as it is. I have a couple of questions, but I'm going to go back to the department with them based on not yourself. And so thank you very much for your attendance today. I appreciate that. Thank you. Members, just in regard to a couple of questions that I raised, I think it would be useful to understand if there, from the department, then what that, if there's a rolling average of in-year monitoring bids and money that's been made over maybe a 10-year period, to see what that amounts to, if that's okay. And also the other question, I suppose, was, it's maybe a department, this might not be a department, maybe just something for us to pick out, is to compare the equivalent schemes and jurisdictions to see if there's any lessons that can be learned. I think that's a fair one. We'll maybe pick that up in our own deliberations, Clark, I think. But certainly the first one for the Minister Adira for a question. Okay, members, are you content then to move on to the next item? Okay, thank you. So members, as is usual practice, our members can we write to all statutory committees seeking their views on the ANC payments bill. Yep. As is also practice, we send a copy of a bill's delegated powers memorandum, the DPM, to the ESR for consideration. So Declan, I'm not sure if the members' bills have such a format. If not, we can agree to send the bill itself to the ESR for advice on any delegated powers within it. So just Declan, is there a DPM accompanying the bill?
Not at the moment, but there will be.
But there will be? Okay, thank you. Okay, so then we'll obviously get sight of that then, and it'll accompany it, so we'll be able to look at that in due time. Okay, members. Agenda item 8, and John has declared his interest in this, Hunting with Dogs Bill, motion for extension to committee stage. As members are aware, the bill passed second stage last week, and as such, the committee stage commenced on the 27th of May. The last day of committee stage is currently the 2nd of September 2026, by which time the committee should lay its report unless the committee seeks an extension. We agreed last week to return to the matter again today to agree an extension date to the motion. I referred to the pack at page 232 to the motion to extend the committee stage to the 5th of February 2027. Although this seems like a long extension, we must bear in mind that we also have the ANC bill. Most likely the Fisheries bill. Well, actually, we know now. We now know we have the Fisheries and Water Quality bill to consider in parallel. The clerk has spoken with the bill office regarding the proposed date, but I would also put on record again that any extension date is not a target. If we can complete the scrutiny stages of any of the bills in advance of that, that would be the ambition of the committee. So, members, yep, Michelle.
Thank you, Chair. And I suppose it's the same comment from whenever we discussed the ANC bill, and I suppose it is just allowing the committee time, and obviously conscious that we are tight with for the clerks for the committee as well, and the amount of work that's required in collating reports. Is there still flexibility for us to extend that a little bit, just so? And again, it's not to run it out of time or anything like that. It's about making sure that the committee is covered, and that we're not then putting too much pressure on ourselves at that point, given the fact that there is now the Fisheries bill is now being tabled.
Okay, no problem. Anybody else? Any comments? And we'll bring the clerk in. John?
Yeah, Chair, a couple. Obviously, I genuinely think that going beyond the 5th of February would be starting to run out of time. But on that theme, can I ask what rationale was used for the date chosen? And if there was any written confirmation from any other assembly source or business area that the 5th of February would allow enough time for the required further stages in the assembly schedule?
Yeah, we do. Obviously, with the I did speak with the bill office on the 5th of February date, and I've also checked with the bill office about any date beyond that. I mean, obviously they can't give us a categoric answer on that, but if we moved it on a week further to the 12th, that leaves 5 weeks for to schedule further con stage final, and you can't schedule final till the speaker gives the go ahead.
So just to remind members, the assembly will be dissolved on the 20th of March.
Yeah.
So we are in the very tight timescales, and we do need to apply primarily the fairness in regard to all of these, so I'm in your hands, guys. So there's a 5th of February here, and I think you're suggesting a week or...
I suppose the point that I'm making is that, again, it's not that this is a target to meet, it's just about allowing a little bit of breathing room for the support that we get from committee staff.
Chair, there's no doubt that before we finish for the summer we will have to make an agreement on further. Now we know we have the Fisheries bill as well. We will have to make a timetable. The team will have to come with a timetable, and decisions will have to be made about numbers of oral sessions that we can fit in, number of meetings a week, etc. But I know that is sort of being worked on, so the similar options are going to be offered to, or to be proposed to all committees, so it's the same options. So I'm hesitant to give any further advice than that at the moment, until I see that paper and see, because there's no doubt, we'll have to cut our cloth to get through 3 bills in that time.
Certainly, I'll just put on the record, as Chair, it will be my ambition that we aren't making last minute decisions on any bill. In regard, because I don't want to see you guys burnt out at the end of this session. I really don't. But it is going to require us to be available for additional sessions as we manoeuvre through. We've got summer recess in about 3 weeks, and then we're back obviously in September, and then it'll be all shoulders to the wheel. So there's a proposal at the moment of the 5th of February, the 12th of February.
Chair, I'm not clear on this 5th and 12th.
The 5th in the paper. I think Michelle's just articulating that if there's a week or two in it, does it matter? I'm content to go with the 5th and just work their best, or unless there's a kind of proposal. But again, none of them are targets, and we've now got an additional bill which came last night, which is going to require that we're available members. Okay. We're content with the 5th, and it is applying for this equidistant extension of Declan's, and Fisheries bill will be the same rules will apply to it.
Chair, regardless really of the date we send, we are aiming to finish before that. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, as I said, I'm going to have to bring a proposal to the committee as to how the 3 are handled.
Anyway, to see how
but we just need to get a date. We need to get an extension date down, because we know we can't do it in 30 days.
Mm-hmm. Just in relation to that, when do we need to table the motion for the extension?
Within the 30 days, but Business Office need 2 weeks.
Just sort of
factor that in.
If you're having additional meetings with other clerks, is there the opportunities to revisit this? Because I'm just sort of conscious. This is what we do. We have to do it. And sort of, I know the clerk or the chair had mentioned about us burnout or whatever else. That's neither here nor there. This is what we've to scrutinise and to spend adequate time to do that. But I'm just also conscious that there's also support that's required around this as well. It's about allowing that.
Certainly, the business or the bill office and the email to me, they are indicating that pushing it beyond the 5th is leaving it tight, very tight. So, but they're not saying, they won't say categorically.
This bill doesn't sit in isolation to everything else that has to track through, other committees and stuff too. So, this is an extension that we're taking so that we do have that space to ensure, we do give it the scrutiny.
We only get one chance at an extension.
Within the you can apply as many times within the 30 days, but really, in reality, it is one.
So when does our 30 days? When's our 30 days up?
It's actually, I've forgotten now. I need to look. It's in the thing. The last day of the committee stage would currently be the 2nd of September, because we hit the summer recess in the middle of the 30 days, by the end of the 30 days. So the summer recess doesn't count.
It doesn't count. So in reality, guys, what I suggest then is, I'm content, but I'm happy to. There's a big piece of work now. We've got the Fisheries bill in to look at a bit of a plan and say how's that going to impact. If it shows that there is an impact, but what I won't do, or what I won't want to see happening is that we do jeopardise any of the bills coming through to get a fair amount of scrutiny, but also the fair opportunity to get the final stage. So if you're content, then I'm going to suggest we get just a paper with those side by sides, and we apply the fair application of the scrutiny. We can make a decision next week. On that, but it has to be fair and transparent. Members, Declan?
I think it's, obviously we need to do things thoroughly according to due process, but I'm also conscious too that if we could do it as expeditiously as possible, because I would imagine that when we would get till beginning of 2027, we'll probably have a lot of executive business, legislative business.
FL1.
Yeah, but even in the chamber and all too,
Yeah, there'll be a lot.
That could clog the legislative sort of broad bandwidth,
I will chase up and see if this paper that's meant to be going to CLG is in any shape of, shape or form. Yeah.
And there's members on multiple committees here too, as well.
But it would be very hard, Chair, in my previous experience on communities, to do 3 bills without meeting twice a week.
Yeah, I think that's the.
If you wish to take similar levels of oral evidence on each.
I think that's a fair point to make at this stage, that we anticipate in September we will be meeting twice a week. Just even to meet the commitments we've got at the minute in regard to the 3 bills.
Chair, what I did in communities in the past was one meeting on a Tuesday was shorter and just took evidence on one of the bills, focused entirely on one of the bills, and the main business remained done on the Thursday plus a couple of other bills. Chair, it's more the agreement on the amount of oral evidence that you want to take on each bill is the crucial thing.
There's a piece of work going to CLG members in regard to the wider context of private members' bills and executive legislation, and at CLG, the committee chairs with the clerks will be looking at what that work looks like for all the committees, and then looking at how the evidence is called and stakeholders, and what we can do in regards to that to ensure that we maximise the opportunity for due diligence and scrutiny, but also aware of the limitations of the time that we have. So if you're content, guys, I think it's a small paper for next week to make a decision then on the date. Is that okay?
If possible,
I'll speak
yes. To you
and that'll put
not possible.
those things side by side to show us, but we're going to need to start populating, guys. I would say even for September for those secondary meetings, because you're going to be asked on other committees, and evidently this is the most important committee.
Sure.
Yes.
The other thing, whenever we're looking at the stakeholder engagement, can we also look at perhaps options where you could do like round tables instead of wait one at a time up each week between, get them round the table till do it thoroughly, but do it in a round table sort of format as well.
Yeah, that's always possible, but the evidence, then we have to bear in mind, doesn't hold the weight of a formal session committee meeting.
Well, I tell you what, I see on the CLG, I'll raise that at CLG, even just as, is there something that we can do which is how we grade the stuff? There's stuff that absolutely will have to be in formal session, I think, to ensure that it's recorded and it's robust. But there may be a different tier of stakeholder engagement, because you think a different tier of stakeholder engagement, for instance, is the citizen spaces. That's a different tier. That doesn't hold the same veracity. I would suggest as getting a witness in and whatever, and they are useful. So everything has a use, but we need to be confident we can stand over it in terms of, so I think if you're happy, I'll raise that at CLG.
Route somewhere or another, even multiple witnesses from multiple organisations or at the one time or something.
Something to maximise the time. Okay. Well, I'll make sure we and if you've got anything you want me to raise at CLG at any stage, please let me know, but particularly for this meeting, which is on the 30th of June, in this space, it would be useful to get your thoughts, okay, because I think all chairs and all committees are faced. You'll hear this if you're sitting on a second committee. Okay, members?
Chair, we are aiming to do that actually with the ANC bill is on the 18th of June to have the Ulster Farmers Union, the Sheep Association and the Sheep Task Force all briefing in one session.
Okay.
So we're
there's
we're ahead of the game.
Example?
Yes, so we'll see how that goes, yes.
All right, thank you, members. Okay, agenda item 9, members, is the withdrawal of the mandatory use of closed circuit television and slaughterhouse regulations. I refer you to the packet, page 234 for correspondence dated the 29th of May from the Department regarding the withdrawal of the SR. Following our scrutiny of the SR on the 19th of March, we agreed that we were content for it to proceed as drafted in the Assembly debate that was scheduled for Monday. However, the Department requested that it be withdrawn in light of drafting errors that were highlighted by the Examiner of Statutory Rules. A corrected SR and explanatory memorandum with SL5 was submitted to the Assembly Business Office yesterday, and we will consider it again once the SR has been reported. So, members, do you have any comments? Thank you. Agenda item 10, members, is correspondence. So members, the correspondence memo starts at page 237 of the pack. I'll highlight a few items and seek agreement that the others are actioned on the memos. Are you content with that approach, members? Okay, then I will refer you to the pack, page 237 of the pack, page 239, to an invitation from the department to attend an event marking the completion of the first reporting cycles under the Climate Change Reporting Bodies Regulations Northern Ireland 2024. It's in the Long Gallery on Thursday the 11th of June, and that's from 8:30 in the morning to 11 a.m, so you have a chance to get in there before committee meeting. If you have any comments, you can tend to know. Thank you, members. Next one then is at 242 of the pack. I refer you to a memo dated the 29th of May from the Clerk to the Committees for Finance regarding the 25-26 public expenditure outturn and forecast outturn information. That's the March restated R13 position and a copy of the position. If you have any comments, you can tend to note. Okay, members. The other one that I'd like to draw your attention to is 10.9. Refer you to the table of papers at page 3 for correspondence that the committee was copied into, dated the 29th of May, from an individual to NIEA regarding a formal complaint about the Regen Waste Facility. If you have any comments, you can tend to note. Okay, agenda item 11 is a forward work programme. Members, that's obviously evidently going to be very important that we look at that for next week, because we will have decisions to make in regard to our legislative outlook. So refer you to the draft work programme starting at page 50 of table papers, and you can tend that it's published as shown. Okay, members, any other business? Yep.
Chair, I should have raised this under matters arising last week. Chair, yourself and Colm Gillen, you jointly chaired the meeting with the Communities Committee regarding the shipping places. Now, that there is a £150 million capital programme over 10 years, and there's 50 million coming from this department. I would like at some point if we could get an officials from DAERA to elaborate in more detail about exactly how that's going to be spent in rural areas. At that meeting, and you were there, Chair, we were told that it was going to build on, for example, the COVID Recovery Small Settlement Programme. But upon further question from myself and others, I just wasn't getting that sense from them at all. And I know that Aoife had raised about rural isolation and community transport, and that wasn't on the agenda either. So I would just like to get the committee here, the officials here, just to see what the plans are for rural areas, because coming from that meeting, I wasn't entirely convinced that this will be best, will have the maximum desired impact in dispersed rural settlements. So I think as a scrutiny committee, I'd like to, and there's £50 million going now, I think we need a...
Yeah, 150 million in total, and then
yes,
we have, that's our duty, because it's the third pillar that we have, which is rural affairs.
A third of the north is rural, and the third of this funding is from DAERA. So I think we need to get some sort of an opportunity to probe officials on, to be certain, be confident about it, Chair.
Okay.
Because we're just...
Yeah, so if we raise that with the department and get a written briefing in regard to those points, and any other points that any members want to raise, I think it's a well-made point. I raised questions around the dilapidation bill and the fact that it wasn't coming forward, and it looked like some of it would be useful in that space, and joining these policies up, but you're absolutely right. Our particular role is in that rural space to ensure that the rural communities not only get their fair share, but get what is needed and targeted to the needs as they are.
Okay. I appreciate that the officials who responded to the questions that I raised in Aoife were from communities, but I'd like to have more confidence as to how it's going to be spelt in rural, dispersed rural communities.
And I think it's important that the departments are equally at the table in regard to that. That would be DAERA's role in that space. So you say there's equal money coming from the department, so therefore, okay, I think we'll definitely do that. Clerk, are you happy with written briefing?
Yep. With a written briefing in the first instance.
Yeah. Yes. And then if anything else comes up, we need to be over the detail. Okay, members. Any other business? Any other business? No. Okay. Date and time and place of the next meeting. So members, as you know, the AD stakeholder event is taking place today from 5 o'clock to 7 p.m. in the Stormont Hotel, and members are asked to arrive from 4:30 p.m. The format will be similar to the NAP event, with 2 round table sessions on opportunities and challenges, and then a refreshment break followed by a feedback session. I refer you to the following items at table papers: the AD event agenda at page 54, the PowerPoint AD presentation at page 55, The opportunities and challenges feedback pages for use by note takers during the session at page 60, and the next committee meeting will then be at 10 a.m. on Thursday, 11th of June in room 21, Parliament Buildings. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Committee Room 21. Sound. 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 Committee Room 21. Sound.